Welcome back to Emotional Mojo. I have a question. Would $8 million be enough money to pay you back for 16 years lost behind bars? Well, that's what Jeff Deskovic received after being wrongly accused for a crime he did not commit. And he's joining us now, along with his foundation's first exoneree, William Lopez. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome, thank you.
So we have to hear this story. Jeff, you were only 16 years old. You were coerced into confessing for the murder of a classmate. How did this happen?
The police drove me to a town other than where I was from, and they just played good cop, bad cop, and they just did the third-degree threats, false promises for about 7.5 hours until ultimately I gave a false confession.
So mentally, they wore you down.
Yes, absolutely.
And 16 years old, I mean, that's so young. So I imagine you're very impressionable then. You don't know your rights.
Right.
No, you don't really understand your rights, and you are at a vulnerable age, as you just pointed out.
Yeah, and so we mentioned you did go away to prison. How did you learn to survive during that time? What was that like for you?
Well, in terms of what it was like, I would say it's described as a nonstop obstacle course featuring the guards, other prisoners, and the civilians as all as obstacles to the ultimate goal, which is try to clear your name and regain your freedom. So it was kind of like a living hell, is what it was.
Wow. So at 16, then it was a prison with adults, or how did that work for you?
Well, I was 16 at the time that I was arrested. I was 17 by the time the trial rolled around. And
Okay.
when I was convicted, I was sent to a men's maximum security prison.
Wow. So
Unbelievable.
all this time goes by, you're denied parole, you lost all 7 of your appeals, but after 15 years, tell us about this, the Innocence Project took on your case. What happened?
Yeah, I sent them an application, and they after reviewing my case, they decided they were going to take me on as a client, and basically they got the prosecutor to allow me to have more sophisticated DNA testing through the data bank, and ultimately the results cleared me about a year later, in which not only was my innocence reaffirmed, but the actual perpetrator was identified.
Really?
Wow.
And I
Yes.
was wondering that, how just one confession would be enough to put you away. But I mean, I guess I'm not thinking, this time, 16 years prior to that, maybe there wasn't this DNA testing availability.
Well, they had a pre-existing DNA exclusion before I was convicted. What changed 16 years later was I went from being able to say it wasn't me into pointing to who it was. And that person's DNA was only in the data bank because left free while I was doing time for his crime, he killed again 3.5 years
And
later.
did you know who it was?
Once the testing identified
Okay,
him,
but
but I
you-
didn't
I mean, you
before.
weren't- you didn't
No, I had
before.
no idea before. No,
okay.
absolutely
And
not.
here's where the silver lining
Yeah.
comes in.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
take a turn for the good, as they do in life. You received $8.5 million in
Ooh.
settlements. But instead of like going away to the Caribbean somewhere, you
Pocketing it.
decide, I'm going to use some of this money. I'm going to help others who are also wrongly convicted. So tell us about your foundation.
Sure, I decided that wanted to help people. I couldn't forget about the people I had metaphorically left behind, so I started a foundation called the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice. So briefly, we raise awareness, we seek legislative changes to prevent wrongful convictions, then we try to exonerate people who already have been wrongfully convicted, not only in just in the DNA cases, which most organizations in the field limit themselves to, but also the non-DNA cases, and we try to help them reintegrate.
Is
So
it
is that
more
what-
difficult?
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. I was just wondering, how does that differentiate from the Innocence Project?
The
Is that
Innocence
the
Project
difference?
yes, they'll only take on a DNA case.
DNA,
Plus, they
okay.
don't have the reintegrative component that we have as well.
Gotcha.
And we've got William here, William Lopez, and you are the foundation's first success story. Tell us about your case and what happened.
Well, in 1989, I was accused of killing a drug dealer in a botched drug deal. I was ultimately convicted on a testimony of a single eyewitness, which she was a drug user, and she actually cut a deal for that testimony.
Wow.
And it was later found out she recanted. There was also eyewitnesses. I had alibi witnesses that were never presented due to a lack of legal assistance. I also had a jailhouse informant that was also present with this with the drug user, which she divulged. The crack user divulged this information that she was lying, and she went and wrote to the district attorney, told them that they were lying, but they still turned their blind eye to that. 23 years later, I reached out to Jeffrey. I had my attorneys. I finally persuaded a judge to reopen and reconsider my case. Then I seen Jeffrey start the foundation. I reached out to him. He in turn jumped in, worked in collaboration with my attorneys, and we located an eyewitness in the Dominican Republic.
Wow.
That was
Whoa.
actually there, and he testified via
gosh.
Skype that I wasn't
I'd
there.
love to know
Incredible.
from both of you, how does hope come into play with this? I mean, I can only imagine knowing I'm innocent and being locked away and losing that hope.
Well, see, I think that you can't, if you lose the hope entirely, then you'll never make it out.
Yeah.
So to me, I experienced my ordeal as that I was not only fighting an external struggle, but also an internal one. I mean, you have to fight off feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, depression, you think of
Sure.
suicide. So you have to maintain hope. That's essential for you to fight.
And I can tell, without even asking, that you have forgiven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both of you, because I don't feel any hardness in your
I don't
heart. I mean,
either.
when you're put away for 16, 23 years, I mean, you have time to sit there and have a hard heart and want to get retaliation for the whoever put you there. But
Do you
don't
still
have that.
struggle with that now? Or?
No, I don't. I decided after my first week home, I'm not going to be this angry, bitter person, because if I do, I'm not adversely affecting anyone that did this to me, and really I'm just harming myself. I want to enjoy my
That's
life as
so
much as
interesting.
possible.
I know,
I want to
it's
live a
amazing.
meaningful life, and I don't feel like I can do that if I'm angry and bitter.
And
about
we
you?
say that all
That's
the time.
I take a similar concept. I transform the negative to a positive. I try to just realize what happened and try to understand what happened and just try to make the best of it and maybe move on in life. This way, it can make me a better person, and maybe we can help others.
I just want to
Absolutely.
add one thing. Just
Sure.
the vehicle that enables me to carry that out on a daily basis just is the advocacy work that I do. I take the energy that I feel and I channel
Having
it.
a purpose.
How
Yep.
important is
Yes.
that when you counsel clients? I mean, to have a positive outlet.
I
you know?
believe that that's why he's able to do what he's doing now. And I feel it from him, I see it in his eyes, and it's so amazing to know that he can give back to others who have struggled just the way that he did. But forgiveness is more about you, right, than
Yes.
others.
Right,
and
of
that's
course.
why you're free.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you guys would want the general public to know about people behind bars, about prisoners? I mean,
Yeah.
what would you say?
Well, I would say firstly that there's a lot more, that our cases are not aberrations, that there are a lot more people incarcerated who are wrongfully convicted than what most people think.
Yeah.
And that this can happen to anybody. I mean, for example, I was not a high school dropout. I was on my way to school when I was initially intercepted by the police. My friends weren't involved in crime. So, the idea that only if you're on a certain walk of life will this happen to you, that's one thing I'll add.
Yeah.
Bill, do you want to add something?
Well, I could say I would share this, that those that are incarcerated, similarly incarcerated, and are truly innocent, never give up hope, never give up faith, continue striving and working towards their freedom and reaching out, and eventually good things will happen.
It's amazing.
Having
It
that
truly
faith.
is inspirational. And if
Very
someone wants to
powerful.
do some more research or learn about the foundation, where can they go for that?
Yes, I just have a new website we recently launched, www.deskovic.org.
Awesome.
Deskovic.
Good stuff. Thank you for sharing your story, you guys. We really
Absolutely.
appreciate you coming by. It's nice to hear the other side of stories we may think we know something about, and we don't. So I thank you for that.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.